great power comes great responsibility.
I don't think there's any form of entertainment that Spider-Man hasn't been a part of.
I never thought that I would be wearing a skin-tight suit day in and day out.
Summertime means superheroes. And we've got one who plans to stick.
I'm going and seeing it 8 times opening day.
It's physical, it's tears, it's laughter, it's fighting.
With Sam directing and Tobey as Spider-Man and Willem as the Green Goblin, it really just brought the film up to a level that I don't think it would have been without them.
Having it girl Kirsten Dunst doesn't hurt either.
Wow.
If you like action, romance,
You are amazing.
and 8-legged creepy crawly creatures, then we've got you covered. Hang with us as we get caught up in the web of Spider-Mania. It promises to be one of the biggest blockbusters to swing into theaters this summer. Box office beware. Spider-Man is making his long-awaited big screen debut.
Come on, move, kid!
And we're going to unmask every dynamic detail behind the big-budget flick, from cool effects to casting.
I'd never read a comic, I don't think, prior to being cast.
Look at me. You think I'm going to read Spider-Man when I was a little girl? No.
For Sam Raimi, the film's visionary director, the answer was yes.
I'd been reading Spider-Man ever since I was a little kid, and for my 12th birthday, my folks paid a local artist probably like $30 to do a painting of Spider-Man, which I hung above my bed.
In bringing the web wonder to the big screen, Raimi found there was plenty of action to mine from Spidey's 4-decade history.
Every element from the motion picture has really been drawn at some point from what has existed from the great artists and writers of Marvel throughout those 40 years.
Spider-Man co-creator Stan Lee has overseen Spidey's success since he literally stumbled on the concept back in 1962.
I saw a fly crawling on the wall. And it occurred to me it might be kind of cool if we had a character who could stick to the wall. Then I needed a name for him. Anyway, I went down a whole list. When I got to Spider-Man, it just sounded so dramatic and a little bit scary, and lo, a legend was born.
But Spider-Man was almost squashed by Lee's publisher at Marvel Comics before the character ever even made it to the drawing board.
I told him about Spider-Man, what I wanted, and he said, Stan, people hate spiders. You can't call a hero Spider-Man. And he said, you certainly can't make him a teenager. He said, a teenager can only be a sidekick. Then, when I told him I also wanted him to have a lot of problems, he said, don't you know what a hero is? Heroes don't have problems. That's why they're heroes. So, my suggestion wasn't meant with tumultuous enthusiasm.
That is, until the public got a glimpse of the web-shooting wonder. Spider-Man unofficially sprang into action in a 1962 comic book titled Amazing Fantasy number 15.
When you're publishing the last issue, nobody really cares what you put in it. So just to get it out of my system, I put in the Spider-Man strip. Months later, when the sales figures came in, I'll never forget, my publisher came to me and he said, hey, Stan, you remember that Spider-Man character of yours, that idea that we both liked so much? Why not make it a series?
Now that the wall crawler has made his way into theaters, Stan Lee chalks up much of Spider-Man's hero status to the very unheroic concept that was rejected 40 years ago.
He's probably the most human of the superheroes, and he was a typical teenager with all the worry, dandruff, acne, ingrown toenails, you name it.
You can relate to him. He's your typical high school kid. And a lot of the kids, going up, with their, they're kind of, they call it awkward. And they kind of see him as hey, look at this guy.
It's just the idea of a normal guy getting these powers, completely by accident.
Second-generation Spider-Man artist John Romita Jr. has drawn the hero for 14 years.
That word nerd is kind of used too much, but he was the everyday guy. Stan created a character that would be just the guy off the street that happens to get these powers.
Spider-Man is so beloved, and really, I think he's just the most relatable superhero, and it's a great story and a journey as a young man going into adulthood and dealing with these powers.
Peter Parker has always been an outcast, and Spider-Man a misunderstood hero.
And I think that's a lot of the appeal of Spider-Man, is that teenage kids understand, because they think, I'm misunderstood, just like Spider-Man is.
You grow up and become an adult and you have to accept responsibility for your actions. So this is something I think is relatable that we all deal with.
This movie was part of destiny. It took time for all the right people, all the stars to align. It was a tough project to pull off. Couldn't make the movie in the 80s. As a matter of fact, it would have been complicated in the early 90s from technology standpoint.
The biggest struggle for me was in trying to figure out how to pull off a living, breathing Spider-Man. With a great team of animators and John Dykstra by my side, I think we actually were able to pull that off.
And the greatest thing in this movie was that we looked at real life, we looked at real webs, and it was very important to us to emulate the real thing, what a web will look like.
It's hard to know exactly what to anticipate because there's so many special effects and there's so many elements to this film which are new to me. I think some of the things exceeded my expectations and some of them matched my expectations.
When you see shots of Spider-Man web swinging over the city, I mean, even I, who am used to it, I get such a thrill out of it. It's a visual delight.
But not all of Spider-Man's magic is computer generated. Over the next hour, we'll explore the love story between Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson.
Peter Parker in the beginning is just a good, ordinary, genuine kid who has a great affection for this girl since he's 6 years old, and he just wants to get to know her and share himself, and she just has to grow out of the phase of wanting to hang out with the cool kids.
Spider-Man brought out the woman in her in a way that was just like this mysterious kind of sexy mystery man who keeps saving her, and that's the bad boy side, I think, that she's going for there.
Of course, every hero needs a great nemesis, and later, we'll catch up with Willem Dafoe, better known in this film as the Green Goblin.
It was a lot of fun to play, I mean, for lots of different reasons. The fact that it was a double role, and there's lots of different things that I get to play around within the roles, because there's huge action sequences, but there's also dramatic scenes and comic bits. It's got a lot of stuff to play with.
Especially considering that the Green Goblin's alter ego is Peter Parker's mentor, Norman Osborn.
Their relationship in the Peter Parker, Norman Osborn mode inform what happens in their superhero mode. It works on lots of different levels, and it's a real hybrid. It's part action movie, it's part popcorn movie, it's part love story.
That's right, so stick around. Coming up, Spider-Girlfriend Kirsten Dunst tells it like it really is.
And after the end of the day, you're sick of screaming for Spider-Man.
And up next, Tobey Maguire gets all tangled up in his new role.
They would end up sewing me into the suit.
But first, we asked you real web users at E! to rank these studly superheroes. Which would you most want to be? Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wolverine from the X-Men, or Spawn? Here's how they ranked. At number 5, it's Spawn. Number 4 is Wolverine from the X-Men. Batman ranked 3rd. He was outmatched by the Man of Steel, Superman at 2. And topping our superhero list is none other than web slinger Spider-Man. Hey, it pays to be the latest movie superhero.
He doesn't get the girls, he's got acne, he's fairly average-looking kid. He's slightly better than average.
Playing the class nerd may not seem like a meaty role, but Peter Parker is no ordinary geek.
If somebody told you I was just your average, ordinary guy, not a care in the world, somebody lied. I think Peter, when he gets in the suit, he feels a certain confidence that he doesn't feel as Peter. He has a sense of humor that comes out of him that you don't see otherwise. Cheese! I liked wearing it because when I got into the action or just the movements, it really gave me a freedom to step into that character.
But landing the lead in Spider-Man wasn't that easy for Tobey Maguire.
I had to read the script, and I met with Sam and talked to him about his vision for the film. And after I did those things, I was convinced that I wanted to do it. So then Sam and I had to convince the studio to hire me for the part.
This is a huge movie. So the first inclination is, let's find a bankable action star. But no one cares about this guy until you get to know Peter. And Tobey, he nailed the dismount.
Once they explored with me the character of Peter Parker and who he was, they absolutely understood the choice of Tobey Maguire and got behind it 100%.
Tobey Maguire took up acting at age 12. Tobey then starred beside Michael Douglas in Wonder Boys.
We had a lot of young actors interested in the role of Spider-Man. What we really were looking for was someone who was very real in their performance. And once I saw Tobey Maguire in Cider House Rules, I thought he was the guy for the job.
I threw on a blue unitard and did a fight scene, and I was in pretty good shape, so I peeled off the upper half of the unitard, tied it off of my waist, and did a topless fight scene for them.
I think he's the best actor of his generation, and he was quite well known in the community and actors, kind of an actor's actor.
But it really comes down to, does it feel right to me? Do I respond to it? And just having that feeling that I really want to be a part of telling the story. And that's what happened to me on this.
He's very personable, has a great charisma, and I felt I could really communicate with him. You know, that inspired me, that let me think we could almost make anything happen together.
Including bulking up this vegetarian leading man to superhero size.
I had to eat lots of tofu.
Yeah.
Prepared in very different, strange ways.
Right.
I trained for 5 months, 6 days a week, a combination of gymnastics, martial arts, yoga, weight training, high-end cardio stuff like cycling and running. I was working with a nutritionist, and then I got into the wire work and the actual fight choreography.
He worked out five hours a day. He's very focused. He's an incredible young man.
Then there was the task of crafting the costume.
I had to go through a body cast and computer scans and a couple dozen fittings.
James Atchison, our costume designer, and myself wanted to maintain the original classic look of the Spider-Man character. I wanted to show Spider-Man's eyes. I was terribly afraid of the audience disconnecting with Peter Parker when he was Spider-Man. James came up with a great Oakley lens look for Spider-Man.
With Spider-Man, because the costume is so much in the lore and the fans know it, and we didn't feel that we could mess around with that. Even though we modified the costume for a movie and tried to bring it into the 21st century, it's the classic costume.
The suit was pretty comfortable and flexible. The only thing that was somewhat uncomfortable is that the zippers would break, so they would end up sewing me into the suit. If I needed a drink of water or a bathroom break, it would be a little bit of a process.
Even when Peter Parker is masked by his Spider-Man persona, his very human side can't help peeking through.
I think it's nice, though, in the scene in the rain when I'm talking to Kirsten. It's a nice moment when you see the vulnerability of Spider-Man. You see the Peter Parker in Spider-Man. At times he misuses his power. It doesn't end up so good for him. The results are quite grave.
We tried to make it a positive story about a good character who learns an important lesson in his life.
Just ahead, Willem Dafoe heats up the screen.
I started on fire a couple of times, but they put me out pretty quick.
But first, we'll check in with our other web users on eOnline. We asked you guys to rank Spidey's superpowers and determine which is the coolest. The choices are web shooting, superhuman strength, wall crawling ability, Spidey's sense of danger, and superhuman reflexes. The results are in, and at number 5 is superhuman strength. At 4 is superhuman reflexes. At number 3 is Spidey's intuitive sense of danger. At a close second are the web shooters, and coming in at number 1 is wall crawling ability.
Whatever it is, somebody has to stop it.
When news hit Hollywood that Spider-Man needed an exceptional star to don the guise of the Green Goblin, heavyweights like Nicolas Cage and John Malkovich were up for the job. But ultimately, the role of a villain hell-bent on Spidey's destruction went to the accomplished actor who wanted it the most.
It's not exactly like they were breaking down my door to have me in this movie. It was something that I actually lobbied for. I got my hands on a script, I read it, I thought it was really strong, the role of the villain, guy that basically functions as the villain in the movie. It was a very cool role. I talked to Sam. I liked how he talked about the movie.
That's clean.
Rather than talking about all the effects, which I know he could deliver that stuff and the action stuff and the look of the movie. I was shooting a movie in Spain and someone came and shot some videotape of me in the vestibule of my hotel room doing a couple of Green Goblin scenes. And finally, they saw the light and cast me.
In the part of the Green Goblin, we were looking for somebody that could handle the role physically. The Green Goblin has to get in a lot of fights with Spider-Man.
We fooled around with different fighting styles and actually did lots of different stuff, everything from kind of capoeira stuff to martial arts stuff. But ended up, the Goblin turned out to be pretty much a meat and potatoes kicker and puncher. That would contrast best with Spider-Man's sort of acrobatic style.
Performing those stunts in the elaborate Green Goblin costume was another challenge.
I had to learn how to deal with the costume, which was pretty extreme.
James Hutchinson and myself and the production designer Neil Spisak wanted to honor the comic book, the look of the comic book. But primarily what we wanted to do was make it seem like it came from a real world. So we had to back into the logic of the Green Goblin's look and outfit.
We played around with, you know, how much you should see the eyes, how much you should see the mouth, what the nature of the mask should be. The look is very strong, but also you wanted it to be expressive. And there's only so much you can do with your voice and your physical gesture. So in some scenes, you really felt like we felt like we needed to see the eyes.
The mask, maybe that was part helmet for this flying device. And he rides this goblin glider, his personal transport, kind of a winged rocket sled.
Had to learn how to ride the glider, which was tricky.
It took great muscle coordination for an actor to stand on this thing. And you're not just sitting on this thing, though, you're riding it. Your feet are strapped to it. So not only do you have to be able to ride this thing without breaking your ankles, but you've got to make it seem like you're driving it, it's not driving you. Willem was able to pull that off. But also, we needed someone that could fulfill another aspect of the story. There's a relationship between the character Willem plays, Norman Osborn, and Peter Parker, who's Spider-Man's alter ego.
What was great about Willem was we wanted someone who could play both sides, subtle, but also could have some fun with the larger-than-likeness of the character.
Peter, may I introduce my father, Norman Osborn?
Heard so much about you.
Great honor to meet you, sir.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
We wanted Willem to even admire Tobey over his own son, James Franco, because we felt there'd be an interesting jealousy dynamic between James Franco and Tobey.
I read all your research on nanotechnology. Really brilliant.
And you understood it?
Yes, I wrote a paper on it.
Impressive.
Norman Osborn has a son. He feels greater affinity with Peter Parker than his own son. So he really projects a lot onto Peter Parker and identifies with him and loves him like a son, almost at the expense of rejecting his own son. So that's all in play. And then in the superhuman mode, there are echoes of that.
Norman Osborn becomes sort of a surrogate father figure to Peter, and we needed somebody that had a particular warmth to them and an intelligence.
Risks are part of laboratory science.
Let me reschedule with a proper medical staff and a volunteer. I mean, if you just give me 2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks, we'll have lost the contractor quest and Oscorp will be dead. Sometimes you gotta do things yourself.
He's a guy that works at this corporation that has a lot of defense contracts, and the defense contractor is going to be pulled if he doesn't get results, but in order for him to get the results they need, he has to do a human test. And all the scientists say, no, it's too dangerous. And he says, well, he's afraid to lose the contract, so he does the test on himself. Things don't go so well. And he's transformed to the Goblin. It's basically like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sin. I mean, it's two parts of a person, sort of the dark side and the not so dark side, fighting for his soul. We knew we didn't want to do it with any fancy camera stuff. The biggest challenge was to be able to distinguish between the two voices, not make them slide into each other, make them distinct.
You killed them.
We killed them!
We?
The accident in your laboratory.
The performance enhancers.
But also have it be plausible that they would be coming from the same person.
We killed them, Norman.
We?
Your accident in the lab.
That directly parallels Peter Parker's transformation. Peter Parker has an accident, he's bit by a spider, and he becomes Spider-Man. There's very close parallels.
Once the Green Goblin finds out that his arch nemesis, Spider-Man, is none other than the boy that he's given everything to, even at the expense of his own son's love, he feels terribly betrayed.
How strange. There's nobody here.
Bit of a slob, isn't he?
All brilliant men are.
By night, the Green Goblin battles Spider-Man. So little did these people realize that although he's his surrogate son, they fight to the death by night.
Dafoe stuck to his guns when it came to doing his own stunts.
Personally, I like doing that stuff. It's fun to do, it's challenging, and it's all part of it. It's as important as the dramatic scenes, and I don't know, if you don't do those scenes, I don't know how to go to the next step in the character.
3, 2, 1, go.
The movement of the Goblin is so important. It was important to have it be very specific to me, and I didn't want to get generalized.
He's such a strong actor. I had no idea what to expect because I can't see his personality in his roles because he's just very chameleon-like. One of the traits I found interesting is you couldn't keep this guy in his trailer if you tried. He was like always hovering on set, just wanting to get in there and work.
Coming up, Kirsten connects with co-star Tobey Maguire, both on screen and off.
It just worked between us, and I felt it too.
But not before we go back to the real web. We asked E-Online users which of these villains is the coolest. Spider-Man's gruesome Green Goblin, the sadistic clown from Spawn, that pain in Superman's neck, Lex Luthor, the Riddler from Batman, or is it that sexy Catwoman from Batman? At number 5, it's the clown from Spawn. Riddle me this, Batman's the Riddler is number 4. At number 3, it's Superman nemesis Lex Luthor. The second place villain is the seductive Catwoman. And your choice for coolest bad guy is, you guessed it, Spider-Man's own Green Goblin.
He saved my life twice, and I've never even seen his face.
Bringing Spider-Man to the silver screen meant delivering large doses of action and special effects. But even more important was finding the right woman to play Spidey's sweetheart.
Look at me. You think I'm going to read Spider-Man when I was a little girl? No.
Good thing director Sam Raimi didn't hold that against Kirsten Dunst.
The first shoot date was coming up quickly. And although we had seen a lot of great actresses who wanted the part, we needed somebody that really had what they call chemistry with Tobey.
I was in Berlin doing the Cat's Meow at the time, and I had met Sam Raimi 2 months before they came to see me.
I had strep throat. They wanted me to get on the plane and go to Berlin and be there for like, I don't know what it was, like 17 hours. And it sounded like it wasn't going to be fun.
I guess they just weren't finding somebody who clicked with Tobey in the right way.
There was a little note from Kirsten thanking me for coming out there, knowing that I was under the weather, and I thought that was very thoughtful of her, and I was really struck by it.
When I saw Tobey step into the room, the pallor seemed to leave him. He seemed energized, and there was actually an electricity that was going on between the two of them, and we got it on film.
Wow, great reflexes. It just worked between us, and I felt it too.
I think we all knew pretty much at that point that she was our girl.
Never mind that the 20-year-old New Jersey native started acting in TV commercials at age 3, and that by 12 she delivered her breakthrough performance and first on-screen kiss with Brad Pitt in Interview with a Vampire. By 2000, Kirsten was in big demand with roles in The Virgin Suicides and Bring It On before she was courted for Spider-Man.
It's a great story, plots, and that's what really holds the film together. If you don't have an emotional center, then you don't draw the people in the audience in.
Don't make me look ugly.
That's impossible.
Kirsten put her own spin on the Mary Jane character.
I definitely didn't want her to be just a damsel in distress. You know, it's definitely Spider-Man needs to save her a bunch, but, you know, I talked to Sam and I was like, you know, she needs to kick a little butt and defend herself for a little bit.
You are amazing.
Mary Jane kind of goes on this journey by herself because she comes from a very hard home life and she kind of covers it all up. And Peter's really the only man that she's shown a vulnerable side to, and it's been and he's accepted her for what she is.
You're laughing at me.
No, I understand. He is extremely cool.
I think she realizes at the end that she can't be dating the bad boys anymore. She has to go for the, you know, lovely guy who'll always be there for her and who's smart and sweet and makes her laugh.
But do you think it's true, all the terrible things they say about him?
No, not Spider-Man, not a chance in the world. I think he anticipates them having a connection, but she just has to grow out of the phase of wanting to hang out with the cool kids or whatever.
At the heart of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's creation, Spider-Man, there's always been a very strong romantic thread that I've been attracted to.
Will I get to say thank you this time?
It's actually kind of sad because he has such a responsibility as Spider-Man that he can't really let her in too close because, you know, otherwise she'll be in danger.
Still, peril is par for the course for Mary Jane, and Kirsten even performed more of her own stunts than co-star Tobey Maguire, since her character lacked the luxury of wearing a mask.
It was a little scary. They hooked me up to wire because at one point the balcony, it breaks off the balcony and then it breaks off like that. Sam would be like, look over here, and then he's coming back, Spider-Man, help.
Good.
And after the end of the day, you're sick of screaming for Spider-Man.
You really did well. You're dynamite. It looks great on film, though.
Even though you knew certain shots were CGI, it just looked like a comic book page was jumping off the screen. For such a big movie, we were very unorganized sometimes. Like, we'd be rewriting scenes sometimes that day.
Who are you?
To have a cast like that in Spider-Man, it's like, it just raises it to such a great level. I think that with Sam directing and Tobey Spider-Man and Willem as the Green Goblin, it really just brought the film up to a level that I don't think it would have been without them.
Up next, director Sam Raimi unmasks the secrets of Spider-Man.
Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
But first, let's get caught in the World Wide Web. We asked E! users to rank their favorite superhero love interests. Here are the choices. Spider-Man's Mary Jane Watson, Batman's woman Vicky Vale, the woman who made Superman weak in the knees, Lois Lane, Betty Banner, who tamed the Hulk, or Spawn's Lady Love, Wanda Fitzgerald. Kicking off our list at number 5 is Wanda Fitzgerald from Spawn. Your 4th place favorite female is the Incredible Hulk's Betty Banner. 3rd among our Lady Love interests is Batman's Vicky Vale. Superman's Lois Lane got your pulse racing at number 2, and pulling rank at number 1 is Spider-Man's Mary Jane. In Hollywood, no blockbuster comes to life overnight. Spider-Man had been in search of the right director for years, producer Avi Arad.
Walked into the room and I saw there was goodness in his face. There was something in there that said, I trust this guy. That was one. 2, in his childhood, his parents actually, as a gift, painted Spider-Man behind his bed. So I knew he had that commitment to the character.
All right, let's see a rehearsal. Practicing.
Sam was a big Spider-Man fan from the time he was a child, and I think had a kind of passion about the project. They knew he was a more than capable filmmaker who had a kind of unique style. He's kind of has this wonderful sly humor which seemed to fit, and he had this kind of connection or relationship to the character, and it was something that he had loved all his life. So I think that's what got him the job, to tell you the truth.
Background! Background, roll camera, and action. Cut.
Oh yeah, I was terrified going into making Spider-Man.
Action.
I never thought that I would get hired for the job.
Great. Looks good. Let's get one more. Okay, one more. That's a print.
Yeah, we had a good time on the film. But it was a very, a lot of opinions, a lot of pressure, a lot of studio heads coming in, this and that. I mean, they definitely left Sam alone, a good portion of the time. But then there'd just be a line of people at the monitor waiting for him to prove stuff. With the pressure that Sam had, he really handled it so gracefully. And I never heard him raise his voice once.
I just thought Sony Pictures would hire somebody with more of a track record for this type of bigger picture behind them. So when I got the job, I was terrified. I mean, how was I going to make these extraordinary movements of Spider-Man with all his grace and agility swinging through the canyons of Manhattan be as good as all the fans knew they should be?
Raimi thought wrong. With Sam at the helm, the actors came on board.
I knew Sam Raimi was attached, which really helped to define what kind of movie it was going to be for me.
He's very inspiring to work for. He really loves Spider-Man with such a passion, and his eyes twinkle when he speaks about Spider-Man, like a little boy.
Sam Raimi, the director, runs a pretty fun set and really encourages the actors to personalize stuff and bring stuff to the role and invent stuff. So people are always inventing things and surprising you.
Good. Okay, that's clean.
He had always had time to deal with everything, and he was very encouraging for me to contribute my ideas. He made me really feel like a collaborator and a partner of his through the process of making this film.
When it came to creating a comic book world on screen, Raimi enlisted the help of some other partners.
I was fortunate in that I've met up with John Dykstra, our visual effects designer, and he really is a genius. He said to me, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. Yeah, and I hate when the other guy gets the good line. But every element from the motion picture has really been drawn at some point from what has existed from the great artists and writers of Marvel throughout those 40 years. Filmmakers now have grown up with that comic book as a child, and they really want to make these comic books. Because what better material for a director than a character that he knows so intimately and loves? It's really perfect for somebody to direct.
The main focus for this director was staying true to the original comic book principles.
So now I think it's a story of a young boy who is slightly irresponsible and how he learns to become a slightly responsible young man. So it's a coming-of-age story, but we tried to make it a positive story about a good character who learns an important lesson in his life.
I don't want to fight you, Flash.
I wouldn't want to fight you neither.
Raimi thinks in the end, Spider-Man fans and curious moviegoers worldwide will be pleased.
I hope they feel exhilarated and uplifted, and like any story of a hero, I hope it shows us in some small way of the good that we're capable of.
Sure, this movie is about action, romance, and life lessons, but what would Spider-Man be without, well, spiders? And in the case of this movie, real spiders.
I'm an entomological consultant and an arachnologist, which means in common terms, I'm a bug wrangler and I solve bug problems for the movie industry. I brought in some tiny spiders, and that's what Sam wanted, and I demonstrated how to make spiders go up and down and different things I could do, and they liked what I could do, and they realized that I was the right person.
Steven Kutcher's specialty is spiders. Spiders of almost any breed. On the film, Kutcher was called on to direct the arachnids for the scene where Peter Parker encounters the genetically engineered spider.
We used 4 spiders in Spider-Man: Cucucamia, Agilinity, Delana. Genes from those 3 spiders were taken to make a mutant spider, which was played by Steatoda. And Steatoda is the spider that webs down and bites him. And that spider has very unique characteristics, and they were apparently transferred to Peter, and Peter became this incredible superhero. So I had to create that whole scenario.
Kutcher's 8-legged actors even won over their 2-legged counterparts.
People on the set really loved my spiders because they were interested in it. They'd come over and look and see what the spiders were doing. And so that was kind of fun, and then I got to demonstrate different things I can do with spiders and answer questions about spiders.
Ironically, the cast member who seemed the most uncomfortable with Kutcher's creatures was Spider-Man himself, Tobey Maguire.
Well, he was questioning it a little bit because all of a sudden he's going to have this spider web down on him. But he handled it as a professional. He really did a good job. And once he got into it, then the issue wasn't the spider anymore. The issue was, let's get a really good shot.
Special effects were no match for the real thing.
I was hoping that they would use real spiders, because real spiders do what real spiders do. They could have easily computer generated it, but it could have easily not looked good either.
Spiders aren't the only creatures who crawl at Kutcher's command.
I got started in the film industry because my major professor got a call for someone to take care of 10,000 African locusts. And it ended up being 3,000 African locusts, and the person to take care of them ended up being me. And I worked on The Exorcist 2 for over a 6-month period. And that was my first start. Yeah. And then pretty soon other people were calling because they realized that I was really good with the specialty of working with insects and spiders.
Casting the right arachnid can be as tough as finding the right actors.
I know people who raise spiders, and we had some spiders shipped in from New Zealand.
Between films, this spider wrangler keeps his prized specimens in tip-top form with a strict regimen of exercise and web spinning.
What I'm going to demonstrate is how spiders can climb up something slippery like this plexiglass, which is really slippery. And so what I have is a pink-toed tarantula. So you can try this at home. Spider-Man is just a great character. I mean, I can think of superheroes that wouldn't be quite as good, like Slugman would not make it very well. And the colors, red and blue, I mean, if they added white, what more American can a superhero be?
While Kutcher delights in a superhero based on his beloved creatures, Spider-Man creator Stan Lee has his own arachnid appreciation.
It's a funny thing. I have no particular feeling about spiders one way or another. But I will tell you one thing. Whenever my wife or I see a spider in our house, not too often, thank goodness, I take the cap off a can of anything. And if the spider is crawling on the wall, I put the cap over it, put an index card under it, and then I carry it outside and take the card away and let the spider go into the bushes. I cannot kill a spider.
As Spider-Man hits theaters, the filmmakers are already looking to this superhero to provide some super sequels.
One of the nice things about our ongoing soap opera, something like Spider-Man, obviously will have sequels.
I am signed on for second and third, yeah. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing where the character goes.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing one, or if they do, that I'll be in it, but if they choose, so I'm in it.
Oh yes, they already have it planned, so yes, I'm sure there will be sequels.
Thank you so much. The second script is starting to be written, but I haven't had a chance to work on it yet.
The sequel, which they're working on now, and then the following sequels, they will all have visuals that'll be breathtaking.
I think Sony, to their credit, believes in our movie. It just makes sense to try to put the team back together and make another one.
You won't see Doc Ock in this, but you will see a cameo of one other villain at least, maybe two.
We're just starting to write the script. One of the hardest things, I think, with 40 years of comic books is to know what part of the story to tell.
The trick with the character, because it's been done so long, and now they got a movie coming out, probably 2 or 3 more, is to make it topical.
Sam and I are always discussing where we want Mary Jane to go or what should be happening. I'm always thinking of things that I'd like maybe to happen in the script. And to be able to work with Sam again is so wonderful because he was just a dream to work with.
For now, filmmakers have high hopes that audiences will definitely catch the Spider-Man bug.
As far as people's expectations, I'm not too concerned. I put all that responsibility onto Sam.
They don't want to reveal too much. They don't want to spoil it for the kids. They want them to be swept up into the thing.
It's a movie that you just go and it just sucks you up, I think. Right from the beginning credits, I think the movie just takes you right in, and it's just so entertaining. The whole movie is just one great ride.
We're trying to make the picture appeal to an intelligent audience so that adults can really enjoy it, but at its heart, it'll have a lot of fun and excitement and adventure that the kids will also enjoy.
I hope it's huge.
I hope people really like it.
I hope they were entertained, and then whatever else they get from it. When I see a film, I like to be entertained, possibly educated.
You'll have to see the movie and figure out what's coming next.
Who are you? He saved my life twice, and I've never even seen his face.
This is my gift. It is my curse.
You do too much. You're not Superman, you know.
In comics, the strips are often done by so many different writers. For a few months, there'll be one writer doing it, then another writer takes over, then another artist takes over. So the characters are always pretty much in a state of flux. I really got into comics sort of by accident. I applied for a job at this publishing company, and I found out they specialized in comics. And I figured, well, I'll stay here for a little while and get some experience, and then I'll get out into the real world. But before I knew it, I was writing some of the stories, and I started doing some of the editing and the art directing, and it was interesting. And I was working with artists who were tremendously talented, and I thought, gee, this is fun. So before I knew it, it was 50 years had gone by, and I'm still waiting to get out into the real world. I'm really not sure why people relate Spider-Man and me more than other characters I've done. I guess maybe because Spider-Man is so popular. He's probably the most popular character we have, and he's been popular for so long, and I've always been so closely identified. I think I wrote the first 100 issues or more. And I think it's a little bit like, and I'm not comparing myself to him, but it's a little bit like Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. Disney did so many things, but the minute you say Walt Disney, people think of Mickey Mouse. So the minute you say Stan Lee, the people who don't think who's he think of Spider-Man.
Problem I had with superheroes was that I thought they were at the end of their run in '65. I thought superheroes had done their thing, and they were, because Superman had died after 7 or 8 years in the 40s, and every time we tried to do superheroes in the 50s, it sort of flickered out. So I had no anticipation that superheroes would last. I just thought it was another assignment that I would do, and then something else I'd probably do westerns after that and science fiction after that. Never dreamed I'd be on superheroes for so long. I have come from a type of artist that isn't satisfied with their own work, because I know what I want to see on paper, and what I settle for is substantially less. And you always think it's not as good as it could have been. And in fact, that's a good sign, healthy, because if you think you've gone as far as you can go, then you might as well hang it up.
John Romita is the Norman Rockwell of Spider-Man. He's the guy that when we close our eyes and you go, think of Spider-Man, it's his Spider-Man. And he did such a terrific job of establishing that, and that was like around the mid-'60s. By the time I get on the book, it's the late '80s. I think everybody was sort of frozen by the beauty of his drawing, that nobody really updated it. And so everybody was just doing sort of a knockoff quasi-version of John Romita's, to the point that he was still almost wearing bell-bottoms, and Mary Jane still had the straight hair, and she's a supermodel now in the story. She's a supermodel, and she still got that same hairdo from '68. So what I did was, as soon as he donned the costume, then all rules sort of went away as to human anatomy and what was physically able to do, because I wanted him to be a spider, and I wanted to get the big eyes on him, and I wanted more webbing on his face, and I wanted him to go in these quirky positions and to me it was about spider, because that's the hero part of it, and that's where I could have the fun drawing it. And so, and some of that quirkiness, Ditko did in the first 40 issues, and that was sort of my thought process when I jumped on.
I'm one of those guys who's read comic books forever. And when I was a real young kid, I started drawing my own comics. That's how my life evolved. I started drawing them there, and then eventually I was publishing my own fanzines, and I went from there to actually getting work in the comic book field, and eventually working on, Spider-Man, which was a great book to be doing. It was a weird thing, because I was following Todd. Todd was immensely popular in Spider-Man book. Sort of the expectations were that sales were going to go down when I took over, because this, he's following the hottest guy in comics. And as it turned out, sales went up when I kind of started taking over the book. So it was a great time, And when Todd came back and was doing the other Spider-Man book, I was still on Amazing, and things just went insane.
Most of Spider-Man's visual identity comes from the original Steve Ditko stuff. His stuff was so deliciously quirky, and it was just perfect for the character. And John Romita brought a level of kind of a glamour to it that took it to another level. And if you mush Steve Ditko and John Romita together, you kind of end up with what I was trying to do for Spider-Man. Sort of the great achievement of my life, of course, was becoming a comic book professional and finally getting to work for Marvel. The challenge is to figure out how much you can keep as opposed to how much you can throw away. And luckily, in the case of Spider-Man, the original form was just so well thought out that it was really just a case of miniskirts and modern hairstyles to update it.
I think I've done Spider-Man longer than anybody in cumulative years, probably about 14 years. From 80 to 83, I started doing Spider-Man when I really wasn't as good as I could have been, as I should have been, to do the character. At the end of the run, I said to myself, my God, when I compare this to what my father did and what guys before me did, oh boy, it's not that good. I hope I can come back and do it again. So I always had that urge to come back and do it again and do it again and do it right. And here I am doing it as a mature adult and still say, I gotta come back and do this right. I gotta get it right someday. Because there's always, I'm a perfectionist on my own stuff, and I've never reached that point where I'm happy with it. So the way I approach things is, I can't compete with my father. I can't compete with John Buscema, can't compete with Jack Kirby. Even today, if I compare myself to my peers and my contemporaries, I'll go nuts. There's guys who are better illustrators than me. So I have to play to my strengths. I'm relatively quick, and I have a good sense of storytelling. And those are the first things you concern yourself with, and then the art comes almost last.
Tim had wanted to explore Spider-Man graphically and a particular time in Spider-Man's life. My connection with Spider-Man was not quite as boyhood idol kind of thing. I enjoy the character a great deal, but there are certain things about writing him that's very difficult, more difficult than some of the other characters that I've done. So we settled on a particular time period, which happens to coincide with when Mary Jane first came into Peter's life. And if I could build an entire series around Face a Tiger, You Just Hit the Jackpot, that's sort of where we began.
It was actually the period where the period in the comics where I first discovered the character, the early Romita issues, as opposed to the Ditko issues. It had always remained my favorite era, and in deciding, in being given the opportunity to do a Spider-Man story, you know, Jeff and I have a history of retelling early episodes in careers of superheroes, and this was my favorite career, and so now I'm struggling like crazy to draw pretty girls and, you know, to emphasize what was emphasized in that original run and yet have it still be what I do.
The goal of Ultimates was to introduce new readership to Spider-Man and hopefully formulate a bridge for those readers to then come into the regular Marvel Universe. I think that's worked out beautifully.
Ultimate Spider-Man is what he should be. He should be a teenager in the year 2001. And as you know, for the past 40 years, as our creative community has gotten older and our fans have gotten older, we've let the character age. What we were able to do with Ultimate Spider-Man is bring out the cues that kids are used to. In 1960, it was really cool to work for a newspaper. In the year 2000, it's much cooler to be a webmaster. A chemistry kit in the basement, that was standard operating equipment in the 60s. Nobody knows what a chemistry kit is now. It's not the thing that you need. So there were a whole bunch of updates that related to modern cues, what school life was like, etc. But what we really did is what the movie does, is we take the teenager and we make him a teenager.
Back in the 60s, it was sort of like, you know, Revenge of the Nerds is kind of what we envisioned Peter Parker as being. Whereas today, the shift is more of, he's not a shy kid, but he's more of a brooding kid. And that slight shift, I think, really hit a vein. And I think also what happened was that it was a testimonial to the character and how forgiving Spider-Man fans could be. Because we thought that the character was dying on us. We thought we were losing him. And then we realized, you know what, the fans were just waiting for something good to come around. And the minute we gave them good Spider-Man, bam, there they were.
Stan Lee calls me in. I was doing Daredevil. I had done about 3 or 4 issues of Daredevil. And Stan Lee called me in and asked me, what do I think about doing Spider-Man? And being an artist for hire, I said, sure, I'll help out. You know, I thought I was doing it temporarily. So that was my strangest twist, was that I thought I was doing it temporarily, ended up doing it for 7 years in a row and intermittently for 25 years, 30 years.
I didn't like him at first because he was beating up on Daredevil. I remember that vividly, that, wow, this guy's a bad guy. My father had explained to me he's kind of he's a good guy, but nobody really likes him. The cops are after him, and the newspapers don't like him. So I had this opinion of him, kind of an anti-hero. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I knew what I felt about him. So when my father started drawing him, I always knew that he wasn't well-liked, and that was such a strange feeling to me. He's a superhero, but the cops don't like him. The cops are after him. And then when he takes his costume off, he's doted on by his aunt. And then he lives just not too far from us, because we lived in Queens at the time. He lives over in Forest Hills. No kidding. Wow, let's go past it. You know, father drove me past the area. It was a live guy to me. It was an actual person, because I was at the age where I was very easily affected by it. It was wonderful having an extra brother and one who didn't make fun of me.
I first met Spider-Man when I was about 13 years old. I missed his initial appearance in Amazing Fantasy, but I got the first issue, Amazing Spider-Man #1. And I was kind of blown away that here was a guy who was about my age being a superhero.
My earliest memory was my father telling me that I had to go and pick up this comic book called Spider-Man. It was the Spider-Man drug issue, okay? And which you know, you read it today and it's pretty quaint. But back then, my father thought that this was gonna have a real big impact on me. You know what I mean? It's this anti-drug, anti-addiction kind of comic. And yeah, well, guess what? It kept me away from drugs, but it started a whole new addiction, which was comic books.
At first, it was just the costume. I thought the costume kicked ass. I mean, it just had this giant, you know, two giant eyes that you couldn't see through the mask, and he was always kind of spider-like. He was always crouching or hanging upside down or crawling up a wall. He just kind of did different things than you would see guys like Superman or Batman doing.
It'd probably be, you know, the cartoon show on TV. That, you know, me and my brothers used to get up early and watch it, and you know, it's one of those theme songs like other TV shows you have that are just emblazoned into your memory bank right now.
The first time I ever picked up a superhero comic book, it was Spider-Man. And I remember very clearly because I had gone home, I must have been like 4, maybe 5. I had gone home and that afternoon on a show called The Electric Company. They had a Spider-Man segment. There was a dude running around in the Spider-Man costume. And during those segments, he would just have thought balloons. He wouldn't speak, and he'd have adventures against people who used poor grammar.
He's kind of us trying to be a hero. He's you or me trying to be a hero. He has all the foibles, the problems, making rent, the secret life, the parts of himself he has to keep to himself. But he doesn't do that in a dark and brooding way.
Spider-Man, there were moments of darkness, and there were moments where maybe he was on somewhat of a bleak precipice, but the thing about Peter Parker that always stayed with me is that he never lost his sense of humor. Even in the middle of the chaos, he was always making wisecracks. He could always look at the sunny side of things.
There was one scene once where he, I love this scene, where he had received a check as a reward for doing something, and it was made out to Spider-Man. So he went to the bank to cash the check. I think it was $1,000 or something. And the bank teller said, "Do you have any identification?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean identification? Look at me, I'm Spider-Man." And said, "Anyone can wear a dumb Spider-Man suit. I need an ID." Well, he didn't carry anything in his pockets, and he couldn't tell you who he really was. So this poor superhero with his $1,000 reward couldn't cash the check.
He was a flawed human being. He was a nerd, didn't really know what life was about, and all of a sudden, boom, you get hit by a bolt of lightning, or in this case, bitten by a radioactive spider, and you got superpowers. And so those are actually, for me, more interesting stories to go, well, here's somebody who doesn't even know how to get through a 9-to-5 day, let alone try and come up with world peace, because now he's got superpowers.
Peter's problems were really practical. They were, you know, I don't have enough money in order to go on a date. If I could get a date, and if I had someone to take to a date. I mean, and it was just at that level that Peter existed.
He was the typical kid, you know, doted on by his aunt, got snot beat out of him all the time, got colds. You know, his costume wouldn't fit.
The first couple fights, he actually got shellacked. If you actually read them, he actually didn't know how he's supposed to be a hero. And to me, being a hero is sort of like a job. You have to grow into it. And those early issues, he was very naive.
I tried to get stories where sometimes the world was in danger unless he could get to a certain place and stop the villain. But at the same time, his aunt was ill, and if he didn't bring her medicine, she might die. But they were both in different directions. He was only one guy. What would he do? And I loved those kind of problems, and how would you solve it? I love Doc Ock. One thing I love about him is his name. I like nicknames. So I originally called him Dr. Otto Octavius. And then I thought, well, he'll have a nickname. We'll call him Dr. Octopus. But then as I started writing it, I started calling him Doc Ock. And man, I really related to that. Doc Ock, that's great.
My favorite Spider-Man villain is Dr. Octopus. I just think he's a terrific visual. He's just a lot of fun to draw.
There's a lot of stuff I really wanted to do with Doc Ock. In fact, I always made a conscious thing to have him, as a character, not particularly involved with the fight. So he'd be pouring himself a cup of coffee or whatever, and his arms would be kicking the crap out of Spider-Man.
Probably the Kingpin, who can conjure up any kind of supervillain thug that he wants to fight for him because of all the money he's got. But I love the Kingpin as a character.
Well, I was less concerned about the Shocker, you know, who just went and sort of zipped you, than I was about the rogues gallery that would be like, again, the bug fighting, you know, a rhino, you know, or the bug fighting a lizard or something. Then it became sort of this animalistic sort of fight.
I love the Green Goblin. I love Sandman. I like the fact that he could turn into sand and go under the doors and do all those things. And he could take the sand and make it rock hard and punch you.
For me, it'd probably be Mysterio. Mysterio is a terrible villain with a great-looking outfit, but it's great-looking because it's just so bad. You know, it's basically a dude with a cape and a green bodysuit of sorts, and he's got these two buckles that hold the cape on that have eyes on him, and then over his head, you can't see his face, he just has this dome.
The Goblin made it personal. The Goblin went through the trouble of finding out who Spider-Man is. I guess Spider-Man early on really kind of busted up a lot of the Green Goblin's early gigs. He just kept stopping them. And the Goblin was just kind of fed up, so he just followed him home one day. And he dulled his spider sense, his danger warning sense, and he followed Peter Parker home, or followed Spider-Man home and changed it to Peter Parker, and he knew where he lived. He knew his name, he knew everything, and ever since then, he had one up on practically every other Spider-Man villain. He knew who Spider-Man really was.
If you want to write stories that resonate and kind of come home to people, you write about a city that exists. You write about streets that exist, and Spider-Man has always been great about that.
I lived in New York and in Manhattan, and I knew it so well, so it was easy for me to try to keep these fantasy stories as realistic as I could. And I didn't mind saying he lives in New York City, kind of like that.
I think Gotham and Metropolis, being imaginary cities, made it harder to identify with the characters. They were always somewhere else. It was not contrived thinking that that was going to make it even better. It was just one of those things that Stan wanted to try, to make a real city. And it helped us because we had real locales to locate. We could put local bridges, we could put the airports, you know, it was a big help to have reference instead of creating the city from scratch all the time.
I've met people who talked about wanting to move to Forest Hills when they grew up based on having read that's where Peter Parker lived. And that's a little extreme, but it's a real place, you know, and kind of building a tale or weaving a mythology around something that exists rather than just kind of creating it, making it up. I don't know, there's something about it, something kind of special about being able to identify with this story. And I think that's what's always worked about Spider-Man, is that identity factor.
It's a great pot with all these different ingredients, and that's what Spider-Man is like. That's what the superheroes that live in New York City are like. And it wouldn't have that same flair to it if it wasn't New York.
You know, we've always been very current, we've always been very topical. So in my mind, to avoid 9/11 was almost callous and pretty cruel. So we were thinking that maybe it should affect one of our characters. One of our characters should be involved somehow or affected somehow directly. And the first thought was Spider-Man, obviously, because he is aside from being our icon at Marvel, our most significant icon, he is our everyman. So we asked Joe Straczynski if he would like to write something for 9/11, whatever it may be.
I gave him a real quick call and just said, you know, don't you think it would be odd if we didn't have something to say about this? JMS said, give me 24 hours to think about it. So went home, the next morning come in, best birthday ever. There's a full script sitting there. It was a knockout punch. I think it was at that moment that I realized that the creative team I had were really onto something special.
I was told that Straczynski was coming up with a script for an issue of Spider-Man. It was in the regular line of issues. Somebody said to him, why aren't you doing anything about the trade centers in Spider-Man? And he said, because there's no words. And those words triggered something in him. And he went back to his trailer while he's working on a movie or something. And 2 hours later, he came up with the script. After I read it, I realized it was the right thing to do. It just absolutely broke me up. I cried like a baby. After crying for 4 days after the attacks, it was the same reaction. This is beautiful work, and this has got to be done. Getting all the reference and doing the book, and illustrating it properly, took more out of me than I suspected.
I was aware when he took on the job that it was going to be a killer. I only did one pin-up poster, and it depressed me for a week. And he took a very difficult story on. It took him like 3 times longer than usual. And he needed to talk to me because it was actually depressing. I mean, we were on the verge of tears working on these things. So it was a very difficult time. I don't know how he did it. Not only to do it as well as he did it under those conditions where it was almost like breaking his heart doing it. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to turn out a quality piece with all of the emotions that were going on in those pages.
Those words that Uncle Ben had mentioned to him, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, I think really stood with Spider-Man, and to this day he still lives with that responsibility, that he's got the ability to make a difference, and he's going to make a difference.
There's a character called Ezekiel in one of the issues of Spider-Man, who is basically has the same powers as Spider-Man, and he asks Peter Parker, why didn't you capitalize on it the way I did? I made some money, and I'm putting this money to good use. And that's a question that Peter Parker, Spider-Man at the time, has to answer. You know, I had to do this kind of thing, and I had to do that kind of thing first because of my Uncle Ben.
Well, the key phrase has always been, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that sums it up. And I don't know where Stan got that, but it was almost in the original concept. In other words, when you get these gifts, if you don't use them properly, you've betrayed the gift you got.
I think that's the single most vital core element of the character, is somebody who's handed these great powers, who's not ready for it. He's not Superman, he's not born to it, he's not Batman, he hasn't trained for it, and he goofs up, he messes up big time, and he learns a very, very powerful lesson, and it shapes his whole character from that point on.
I think the moral couldn't be summed up better than with great power must come great responsibility. And they're kind of words to live by. You know, it's a real do unto others. Batman doesn't have a real kind of simple boil it all down to this one phrase methodology.
For me, it's about guilt. Peter Parker has power and responsibility, but ultimately he has guilt. He'll never, ever quite make it. That freedom is elusive. Great power and great responsibility, they certainly resonate, and certainly responsibility grows out of this guilt that he has, but for me, it's the G word, guilt.
I think it's just the same sort of everyday virtues that we've all been taught, you know, as we grow up. But I think the beauty of Spider-Man, of course, is that he is every man, every woman. It's that mask, you know, it's colorless, it's genderless. It's just a mask with somebody cracking wise underneath it, and that can be any one of us, you know. What the moral is, you know, again, there's a million morals that you can walk away from that, but I think the underlying message is that any one of us, you know, given a small bite from a radioactive spider, could be Spider-Man.
You sure you want to know? If somebody told you I was just your average, ordinary guy, not a care in the world, somebody lied.
First I heard about Spider-Man. It sounded interesting to me, but only if it was done the right way, like done in a way that would excite me, you know, in a classy way with a good filmmaker and a good story and a good cast.
When I first heard about Spider-Man, I was like, oh my god, like what a cool character to do, because Spider-Man's, you know, a more humanistic superhero, so I feel like a lot of people can identify with him, and it's a good story as well as all the action.
What happens to the people in the story is quite involving. Spider-Man is about extraordinary things happening to regular people.
The strength of Spider-Man, for me, has always been the fact that he's a real person. He's one of us who's gone through elementary school, junior high school, and now high school. So he has absolutely our frame of reference on things. He can't get the girl, he's broke, and suddenly he's this superhero.
Spider-Man started as its own book in 1963 by Stan Lee.
I was looking for an idea for a new superhero, and I was sitting at my desk and I saw a fly crawling on the wall. And you know, one of the things you always look for is what new power can I come up with? And I said, gee, wouldn't it be something to have a hero who could crawl on walls? But the next thing I needed was a name for him. So I thought Flyman, it didn't seem to have sex appeal. Mosquito Man? Nah. Insect Man? Ooh. And then I went down the list, and then I came to Spider-Man, and somehow that sounded dramatic and scary. Spider-Man.
Come on, move, kid.
I knew all about Spider-Man. He got bit by a radioactive spider. I knew that whole story, and everything, you know, I think has like a slight comic book feel with reality, and I think that's important because it is a comic book.
He has real problems, and this extraordinary thing happens to him, and it's about how he deals with it. And it's very much a coming-of-age story about growing to be able to accept responsibility.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man had real personality, had real problems. The character of Peter Parker was a real kid in high school, and the Spider-Man comic books were more about how these superpowers affected his real life. So I could really relate to those stories in the early Spider-Man comic books in the 60s and 70s, and he became one of my favorites.
There's always a need to find the right blend of maintaining that history and yet making it contemporary enough that the audience is going to accept it as being now. Time worked just right. Technology is here, we have the right people that want to make it, the passion. It's very important for us to tell the story right, make a good picture, right for the times, but keep our characters in character.
Peter's, You know, he's insecure, he's uncomfortable, he's not like the charismatic, charming guy with girls. You know, he gets bit by the spider, and at first he's feeling ill. He wakes up in the morning, and he feels, you know, invigorated, and he doesn't need his glasses anymore. His eyesight is, you know, perfect. Weird. He feels totally different, and I think, you know, part of it confuses him, and he's scared, but also excited.
Goodness me.
I thought you were sick.
I got better. And there's that transition for him to, you know, get used to his transformation, and then he embraces it, and he starts climbing up the wall and running and jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Spider-Man moves, and he does a dance. I know Sam likes to talk about his sort of choreography in the air as like a really graceful dance. It's the place where once Peter gets comfortable with it and he really embraces it and learns how to, you know, swing well, it becomes a place where he's in total freedom.
I think there was a consensus that Tobey could play the Peter Parker side of the movie, and some question, quite honestly, about could he be Spider-Man. So he came in and to his credit, did a test and blew everybody away.
Boy, right there. I gotta bring you in.
Oh my God, there's still somebody up there!
I'm going. I'll be here when you get back. Not coming back, Chief. Go! Go!
Tobey Maguire was so powerful in his performance as Peter Parker. He was very real, and you could see that he was a sensitive individual, and he just was very potent in his stillness. And I knew that there was a lot there that we needed for this particular character of Spider-Man.
Tobey's great. It's perfect. I mean, when I see him in those glasses and I see him walking around, it looks like it's Peter Parker. I don't know, there's something that is incredibly fitting.
Peter Parker has such a unique character that I felt that the thing that I should do with this picture was focus inward and really tell a smaller story about Peter, his interaction with the woman that he loves, and his growth toward being a responsible young man.
Why so interested?
I'm not.
You're not?
Well, why would I be?
I don't know. Why would you be?
Tobey was really good at something that sometimes I don't think I'm very good at, and that is he really is good at sort of a character analysis. I kind of look at something and I just say, okay, well, that's the way it is, and then I deal with it. But he tends to question the actions much more.
Peter, may I introduce my father, Norman Osborn?
Heard so much about you.
Great honor to meet you, sir.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. Basically, I play a double role. I play the Green Goblin, and then I play Norman Osborn.
I'm right here.
And sometimes in the same scene, they play scenes together, which was unusual.
And it's only the beginning. Think of what we can do.
Willem's a great actor. Obviously, he can pull off both parts. In the movie, there are times where he needs to pull off both parts at the same time, and so that's really the challenge for an actor.
Don't get coward. Wrists are part of laboratory science.
This guy is a very driven, gifted scientist, and he addresses the question of how do these super people, what's their relationship to regular people?
This super intelligent, super powerful guy recognizes, you know, good qualities of Peter, which makes him feel great. You know, it's like somebody notices me and recognizes me that I respect. No, I appreciate it, but I'll be fine.
No problem. I'll make a few calls.
No, I couldn't accept it, sir. I like to earn what I get. I can find my own work.
I respect that. You want to make it on your own steam.
He's as good or better than any of the stuntmen, and he's done, you know, I'd say 90% of his own stunts. And really kind of brought this physicality to the Goblin, to the portrayal was also, you know, this, when he's Norman, he's one way physically, and when he's the Goblin, he's completely transformed.
No one
one says no to me!
Willem's great to work with because first and foremost, he's just a great actor, and I'm a big fan of his work in general. He's so full of life. He's so ready to jump in and do this.
Yeah, that's a super villain fight.
Plus, he's in ridiculous shape.
I like the character of MJ just because it gives me a chance to make a hero for the young girls who watch the film. She has a bad childhood, bad past, and abusive parents, and in the beginning of the film, she always tries to date the football player, or be popular, or just cover up her home life and try to be somebody who she's not. She catches little glimpses of Peter Parker's love for her, but it doesn't really register in the beginning. It's kind of just lingering, I think, in the back of her mind. And he's always endearing to her and always makes her smile and makes her feel good about herself.
You're awesome in all the school plays.
Really?
Yeah. I cried like a baby when you played Cinderella.
Peter, that was first grade.
Living in New York, I think she grows up and she realizes who she really cares about in her life, and the one man who ever loved her for who she is, and it didn't matter, you know. He really liked her for the Mary Jane inside of her.
What we were really looking for was someone who had a chemistry with Tobey Maguire. We wanted the audience to recognize that these two people had a connection, and we wanted the audience to need them to be together. And when I saw Kirsten and Tobey perform the scene together, we felt that they made that connection. She really is a very hardworking young actress.
I think Kirsten's great because, first of all, she's a really great, soulful actress who knows how to have a lot of fun. And it's great to work with that kind of energy.
When you have the Mary Jane of the comic book, so you're always trying, just like with Peter Parker, you're trying to live up to what's that expectation, so you're kind of waiting for someone to walk in the room where you go, oh, that's Mary Jane, that's MJ.
The group behind them. I guess he's sort of a nerd, odd duck, the classic son trying to win the affection of the father and maybe at times rebelling to get attention.
James Franco had actually come in for Spider-Man, and we'd just been so taken with him, thought he was remarkable. And there's a real, you'll see in the movie, this real kind of, you really believe he and Willem are father and son. It's quite a complex relationship, done very subtly and I think really well.
Man, this whole thing so you can meet MJ, and now you have to leave?
I gotta go.
This girl is important to me.
Harry, please. Your mother was beautiful, too. They're all beautiful. Until they're snarling after your trust fund like a pack of ravening wolves.
Thanks for sticking up for me, Harry.
When I was asked to play Aunt May, I didn't know she was a real person. But since I've talked to friends and they ask me what I'm doing and I say Spider-Man, I get a wonderful reaction. People say, really? Oh, how wonderful. Are you having fun? And I say, yes. And then they say, what are you playing? And I say, I'm playing Aunt May. And they say, well, of course. There we are.
Oh, it looks delicious.
Norman, will you do the honors?
Hey, going to the downtown library. I'll see you later.
Oh, yeah, wait, Pete. I'll drive you there, buddy.
Oh, no, I'll take the train.
No, I need the exercise. Go on, go.
I think Ben is, if there is such a thing as a typical avuncular uncle, a warm, loving, caring uncle who wants to be everything a father should be to a son who is not his son.
Pete, look, you're changing. I know. I went through exactly the same thing at your age.
No, not exactly.
Peter, these are the years when a man changes into the man he's going to become the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into.
That's a balcony overlooking Times Square. That's the aisle.
Sam, he's a character. I've heard the stories about how he's been a fan since he's a kid.
Sam grew up having Spider-Man painted on the wall in his room, which is the best kind of a man to take the helm for a movie like that.
Well, I always would admire as a kid how the artists in comic books had to come up with one illustration that told the story. You'd see these very dramatic presentations in the comic books, and they had to depict exactly what was happening in the drama.
He has such a great imagination, and I hear him talk about Spider-Man, and his eyes sparkle. So I think that he just, had such a knowledge and such a love for it, and it really comes through.
He really went to his own kind of gut about what attracted him as a young man, as a boy, to the Spider-Man story.
He's a great collaborator. He really, just in general, made me feel like a part of the team, like I was really contributing a lot to the film.
What Sam's good is rooting all the fantastical elements with a reality.
Sam is going for a very naturalistic feel to play off the fantastic side of Spider-Man.
The first meeting I had with Sam, you could tell that he was very passionate about the character of Spider-Man, and he truly understood what Spider-Man was all about. And it's why I took the job, is that he has that ability to explain to you truly what the film is about, what the character is about, and why it's important to make Spider-Man.
The sets were really fun to work on and really fun to see them build, and exciting to see them go up.
Each set is such a character in this film, and New York is an important part of this movie. It'll have like a romantic feel to it, I think.
I didn't feel it was proper to have a super stylized world, like the comic book world like you see in a lot of comic book films. I felt that the most important thing to do was to create a real world. There are parts of New York that are magical. So what we decided to do was just to create a whole city of those realistic, magical parts of New York.
Neil Spizak truly loves New York, understands New York, and was able to bring his passion of New York to the film.
One of the design elements that I tried to incorporate into the film as a whole is a slightly overscaled and somewhat classical architecture, building tops and places that you normally aren't on buildings, closer to the upper architecture of the buildings of New York.
Really, it's like if you look at the comics, you flip through the pages and you look where Peter grew up, it's in this movie. If you look where Peter went to school, it's in the movie. Where would a kid like Peter share an apartment today? It's the apartment. He did a great job to be able to put together very fancy side of Manhattan, because that's the Osborne side of the world, with this modest upbringing where Peter comes from. And he connected it beautifully.
And what is Spider-Man's world? And certainly he exists at the rooftops of New York. We scouted tons and tons of rooftops of New York, so we got to see the whole side of New York that most people never get to see. And we're bringing that to the film, and I think it's very exciting.
It was so important to me that it looked real. If it looked bogus, it wasn't going to work. Our optical effects supervisor, John Dykstra, convinced me that it would be possible.
The important part of this movie was to make sure that the character's humanity showed through even when he became a superhero. And although we'd like to think that our stunt people and our actors can do all of these terrific fly through the city scenes, the truth of the matter is that it's either too dangerous or physically impractical for them to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in between the lines.
I think that we are very fortunate to have John Dykstra on this movie. John has an amazing legacy in the effect business.
it's pretty amazing to me, you know. I think there's been a few great innovative films out there that, you know, just raise the bar. This is a whole different kind of thing, you know, where it's very specific action to Spider-Man.
What happens to the people in the story is quite involving.
It's been a long journey. It's definitely been like such a learning experience for me. I got to do a lot of stunts, so it's definitely been a like physical testing my limits kind of movie.
The level of action in Spider-Man is exceptional. There's so many elements that were designed from the ground up to create an action sequence, an aerial dogfight battle over Times Square. You don't see that every day.
I've never learned so much making a picture as I made this one. There were so many aspects of filmmaking that I had learned over the last 20 years that I had to draw upon to make this particular picture.
You guys make your way back to the bleachers.
I think that the audience will like the fact that the actors and the writers and the whole production team tried to stay true to the spirit of what made Spider-Man the comic book great.
I have never really been involved in such a big production that's had so much special effects, the integration of special effects with traditional scenes.
You don't usually get such a great collaborative bunch on such a huge film like this, so I feel like there's more heart to this film than it would, you know, one of those kind of special effects films would have.
It is so exciting, and you see talented people who put their own take on your characters, and they make them even better than ever. They bring them to life, their flesh and their blood, and they move and they talk, and there's music and sound effects, and it's wonderful. It's incredibly thrilling.
Wow, great reflexes.
Every couple of months, one of my friends will go, "Dude, you're Spider-Man. You're doing Spider-Man. I can't wait for that movie." You know, and they like get all excited. I'm like, yeah, that is cool.
I'm not gonna stand here and wait. I'll hold on to the wings of the eagles. Watch as we all fly away. And they're watching us. They're watching us as we all fly away. And they're watching us. They're watching us. As we all fly away, yeah. They're watching us. They're watching us as we all fly away. Whoa.
I told you to stay off this set and never come back.
I love that. I love that. I want you to do this right. You either do it right or you get off the set. You hear me? Get this together. It's not cutting. You make this work or I take you out.
I want you off my set on the double quick.
I can't hang out? Just for a minute?
He's a character. I've heard the stories about how he's been a fan since he's a kid.
Spider-Man is history. This movie will make history. It's a classic from the get-go. And you need someone there who says, I respect that. I want to make it edgy. I want to make it a high-action adventure. But I have to tell a story here that anybody can see. Sam grew up having Spider-Man painted on the wall in his room, which is the best kind of a man to take the helm for a movie like that.
What Sam's good is rooting all the fantastical elements with a reality, which is sort of conventional wisdom, but I felt that all the time, that he always would start out with a very down-to-earth concept and then kind of spin off on that.
He has such a great imagination, and I hear him talk about Spider-Man, and his eyes sparkle. So I think that he just, had such a knowledge and such a love for it, and it really comes through.
He's warm and kind, and, a lot of directors, you feel as if they're standing over you with a big stick or something, but he couldn't be sweeter and more fun to work with.
He's got his tremendous visual sense. He's a great visual storyteller and kind of has a great sense of how, movies, the unique thing about movies is how the pieces are put together. So he has a great sense of how to build a sequence from an action standpoint, but it always comes back to, is it good storytelling?
When I first discovered Sam Raimi in my drama class in high school, I thought he was a schmuck, and now I'm convinced of it. It's great to see him at his element. Sam's the right guy to make a movie like this, because this is how his brain works. Things are magical and fanciful, and now he's got the raw cash to make it happen. There's a lot of filmmakers who would be lost in this environment, but with Sam, this is his world. This is what he does best.
He brought a really wild, seat-of-the-pants style of filmmaking to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and he used to work with the Coen brothers, and I think there was a lot of cross-influence way back, which went into the early Coen brothers film and Sam's films, and in their own crazy ways, they were both very influential.
Spider-Man had real personality, had real problems. The character of Peter Parker was a real kid in high school, and the Spider-Man comic books were more about how these superpowers affected his real life. So I could really relate to those stories in the early Spider-Man comic books in the 60s and 70s, and he became one of my favorites. Well, I always would admire as a kid how the artists in comic books had to come up with one illustration that told the story. You'd see these very dramatic presentations in the comic books, and they had to depict exactly what was happening in the drama. I would read these comic books and learn a lot about how to tell a story with pictures. I had never made a type of picture that was widely commercially popular. I usually make dark and stranger type pictures that appeal to the general public. So I was surprised when I actually went in for an interview for Spider-Man, because I knew how they had expected it to be a very popular mass appeal picture. And all I did was explain to the executives what my love for the character was, all the great things that I had seen Stan Lee and the great artists and writers at Marvel create over the years, and I told them how much I loved it and what aspects I loved about it. And I got a call back the next day saying I had the job.
Years ago, Sam and I were going to do a movie, The Mighty Thor, another Marvel character. We had planned to do that. We'd co-write it together, and he would direct it because I was too busy. But for some reason, we never got around to doing it, really. But I had gotten friendly with Sam. I had great respect for him. He's a great director, an intelligent guy, the nicest guy you could ever meet. I'm absolutely delighted that he's the one who's doing Spider-Man. I think it's very lucky that we were able to get him, because he's going to do the character justice.
He's a great collaborator. He really, just in general, made me feel like a part of the team, like I was really contributing a lot to the film. I love working with him because he's just a great example for me of a man who takes his work seriously and takes his family life seriously, and he's very sincere and caring, and at the same time he can have a lot of fun and be funny, and he's obviously really good with camera work and can do really crazy fun stuff with the camera.
Hang on, Mary Jane!
Kirsten?
I forget, did you want the movie to be good or bad? I have to ask if I can ask you for one more quarter speed faster.
He's so intelligent, so funny on set, and just makes it like a really calm atmosphere where this set could be like, you know, everybody's stressing out, because everybody's stressed out around him, and he just keeps everybody calm and like good-natured, and he's a you know, a good role model.
I love working with Sam. He's collaborative, which is great because I really like to participate in the thinking process that goes into the making of the movie. And he understands what it is that he wants in terms of the action of the character, the personality of the character's motion, the personality of the character's presentation, and the graphic quality of the film.
I've never learned so much making a picture as I made this one. There were so many aspects of filmmaking that I had learned over the last 20 years that I had to draw upon to make this particular picture. Even though it's a small story of a young boy that learns what it is to be a responsible young man, its canvas is very large. Danny's a great person, and he's a very talented composer, and he's really the soul of Peter Parker and Spider-Man through his music.
So is it just the horns doing it right now?
Yeah.
How about we start a couple trombones?
Yeah. Let's put the trombones in with them. Down low.
They're holding in. No. Up. In the beginning, it's like a big jigsaw puzzle, and I'm trying to figure it out. And until I get those main pieces of the puzzle in place, I can't do all the small pieces. And those main pieces are my themes and how those themes are going to work. So I'll tackle 3 or 4 big scenes. So in Spider-Man, I'll pick one heroic scene where Spider-Man is flying through the buildings for the first time. I'll pick a scene with the Goblin, and I want to make sure his theme can do different things. I'll pick a romantic scene with Peter Parker and MJ. Maybe the first time they kiss, maybe something even a little more subtle than that.
Why so interested?
I'm not.
You're not?
And I'll block out these scenes, and then when I feel that I've really got those nailed, I'll go back from the very beginning and just go scene by scene and score the whole movie. But it's such a big puzzle. I've got to know I've got my ingredients are really there and feel really confident. Also make the French horns on the downbeat of 16 instead of a quarter, make that an eighth.
I think Danny's one of the most talented guys doing what he does. I know what Sam wanted to do with the camera work is make it fun and exciting and give you points of views you hadn't seen on the film before, but not make you aware of the camera work. And I feel Danny is kind of the same way with his score. I don't feel like I'm never distracted by it or paying that much attention to it, which I think is a great compliment to a score, but really suited the picture and works as a piece. It builds well, and I can listen to it without the movie and still be moved by it.
The core of the orchestra might be the same on almost every film score that I do, a certain group of strings, brass and woodwind players, and then I'll make adjustments depending on the film. On Spider-Man, I definitely loaded it more towards the brass. I knew it was going to be a very percussive, brassy score. Most of the percussion's coming from my own playing. Everything from trash cans to pots and pans to northern Indian drums and African drums and everything in between going. But the orchestra itself will be relatively traditional.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the goblin.
Good. What's the next cue? I pick up on weird, subtle stuff. The Goblin, for example, I got his theme not from anything physical he was doing at all. I got his theme from a scene where Willem Dafoe is talking in the mirror to himself, and it's before he really knows he's the Goblin.
You killed them. We killed them.
We?
Remember your little accident in the laboratory? Performance enhancers. Bingo. Me. Your greatest creation.
And it was that weird, twisted quality that he gave that conversation that gave me the Goblin's theme. So sometimes it's not a scene that you might think is the most obvious, but that's, to me, at the heart of the character. Peter Parker and Spider-Man actually had two different themes that I used. I used one for Peter Parker and one for Spider-Man. And that was a little bit of a process I went through with Sam, because first I wrote the Spider-Man theme. I thought that was very clear. That's Spider-Man, a hero, swinging through buildings and saving the girl. And something really brassy and heroic. Yet, it didn't seem to play the heart of the kind of lost Peter Parker character looking to please Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben?
That was the struggle. It's like, this theme is working for Spider-Man, but it's not playing that heart of the character. And then I found a variation on part of Spider-Man's theme and spun that into a whole different theme, which became Peter Parker's theme. And then once I got that, I realized, wow, it's like, it really, there's two sides to the character and two different themes that seem to play them. Sam was like really, really happy at that point because that's what he was looking for in the film.
I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility.
When Peter Parker finally becomes Spider-Man by the end of the picture and accepts his responsibilities, the responsibilities that come with great power, I hear the music finally soar in a complete theme. And when the chorus kicks in, it's just very moving to me, and I feel that he has fulfilled his destiny.
He's a criminal, that's what he is. A vigilante, a public menace. What's he doing on the front page of my newspaper?
He's news. He saved 6 people from burning to death.
Yeah, and a fire he probably started. This lunatic's news, all right, bad news.
We sold out all 4 printings, Jonah.
Sold out.
Every copy.
Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man page 1 with a decent picture this time.
Can't get a picture. I've had Eddie on it for weeks. Nobody ever gets more than a glimpse of him.
What is he, shy? We can get a picture of Julia Roberts in a thong. We can certainly get a picture of this schmuck. Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous? Well, then I'll make him infamous.
Let's have the purse.
Yeah, we're gonna have to teach you little manners here.
Get the out of here.
Don't move.
Spider-Man. Hints and tips for the first 3 levels. Level 1, Search for Justice. In search of information on the whereabouts of your uncle's killer, you encounter the deadly Skull Gang. Using your web compass to guide you, you web sling to the rooftops to face the Skull Gang head on. If you encounter gang members mugging a young woman, rescue her and retrieve her purse for bonus points. On other rooftops, you must defeat more thugs with the force of your kicks, punches, and web yanks. Resort to your explosive web dome only when outnumbered. Search for gold spider icons to increase your already powerful spider skills. Capture and interrogate a gang member to learn the identity of your uncle's killer, Skull Gang leader Spike. You must proceed to the blue spider icon to gain entry into Spike's warehouse hideout. Level 2, Warehouse Hunt. Inside the Skull Gang's chop shop, you begin your mission in stealth mode. But if you're seen, you lose stealth mode for the rest of the level. Then you must fight your way deeper into the warehouse. Your head will glow with Spidey sense when danger is imminent. Crawl through the air duct and avoid the electrical charges and dead ends. Your deadly combination of web impact, kicks, flips, punches, web gloves, web capture, and web domes must all be used to defeat the Skull Gang. Careful though, you're running low on health. Find the secret area behind the crates where red spider icons will regenerate your powers. Hint, your ultimate success lies in the recovery of the electrical fuse that controls entry into Spike's inner sanctum. Level 3, Birth of a Hero. You are one step closer to Skull Gang leader Spike and avenging your uncle. Crawl across the ceiling to avoid detection. If you reach the storage room, you will find another gold spider icon which gives you more powers. You must zipline past the burning steam and use all your skills to defeat 10 armed gang members and get the key that opens the door to Spike's lair. There you will find Spike, whose arsenal of weapons includes a powerful shotgun and blinding flash grenades. Use your fighting combo moves and spider-like agility to avoid his attacks. If you need web fluid or health power-ups to defeat Spike, search on the ceiling or in the light brown crates. Since Spike is too strong to web yank or web capture, use your targeting to hit Spike with web impacts. Spike's defeat is only the first step on the long, tough road to wiping out evil. Now that you've mastered your powers, defeated Spike, and become Spider-Man, you must rid the city of stronger and more deadly villains.
The web was a problem to me, and so there's two things that I wanted to do with it. One, if you take a look at the way that it had been done all the way up to the point that I came onto it, it was straight lines like 2 or 3 straight lines, and then they put X's in it. You know, so it was like a netting. It was more like a netting, and it was functional as long as you were drawing a panel left or right or going backwards. But where it never worked was if you wanted to shoot towards camera. And a couple guys tried it, and the line just got bigger, and the X's just got clunkier, and it just was like, are you kidding me? So I wanted to try and come up with something that could actually move, not only move towards camera, but you actually believe that it was webbing. And so Tom DeFalco, who's editor-in-chief, although he denies it, I was just talking to him recently, going, I never called it spaghetti webbing. He did it. He's Italian, and he called me in his office one day because I got clarity on this one where he went, stop drawing that darn spaghetti webbing thing that you're doing. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I got a name for it. So it's actually a very good name because for people out there who aren't comic book fans, that's what it looks like now. So when he hits the button, it's almost like, remember when we were kids, we had the Play-Doh and you squeeze it and like little strands come out? Well, take that on a smaller level and about 6 or 7 come out, but 3 or 4 of them go like this, and then 2 of them go and they wrap around it, almost like creating like a rope right on the spot, except for it's a lot more loose or something like that and a little gooier. And so what it allowed me to do now is that given that those strands were actually, I had to draw each one. I mean, if you take a look at some of my artwork, like the last thing I did on every page was to do those darn webbings.
There's a possibility that people have the impression I might be a better comic book artist than my father was or is, which is all opinion. But my father's an artist that I will never ever approach talent-wise. I saw him do stuff, I've seen the stuff that he did when he was 19 that I can't do now.
I tell you, my son and I have come from a type of artist that isn't satisfied with their own work. It's an inside joke with us. If he thinks he can't live up to my stuff, he should know how far short I fall of my own impressions of what I should be doing.
John Romita Sr. he's the Gene Kelly of the comics industry. I don't know, if you get a chance to meet him, he's the most charming, self-deferential man you'll ever meet in your life. He is a brilliant artist, and he will never, you wouldn't know it to talk to him. John brought a style into Marvel. I mean, at the time, Marvel's style was, the house style was Kirby. And John came in and he had this sort of romance kind of style, a much softer style than Jack, but it was perfect for Spider-Man because Spider-Man was about Peter and about, you know, Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane and that sort of soap opera kind of thing.
He's not an overpowering artist, but he repairs. He's such a great artist that when we worked together, I saw the differences in the pencils. He said he just traced over my stuff. He's full of it. He fixed it. It's his beautiful work over mine makes me look great, and how do you argue with that? It's a lot of work for him. And he worked hard on everything he did with me. And I didn't take offense to that because you bow to his experience. But working with him is, you know, it's in the heart more than it's just on the paycheck. He's my hero and he's my teacher and he, you know, he's the greatest guy I ever met. Why not work with him? And it turns out that way on the paper.
John has a very different visual approach, much more cinematic than mine. Mine is more like you're in the living room with the characters and talking to them. His is cinematic. He has a cinematic design sense that he brings to the book that I never was able to do. A lot of people say they can see the similarities, but I don't think there's ever been a time when we sat down and tried to make it that way. He was always on his own. He always had a distinctive style.
The major part of comics, especially now, is storytelling. So that's the only similarity with my father is the approach to storytelling. He taught me through example. I think of it in black and white without the benefit of color or dialogue. How do you tell a story without those? And you know, you kind of rise to the occasion. And I would rather tell a story than draw the story. And naturally, I've got to draw, but storytelling is just so much fun.
John Romita Jr. is the world's greatest comic artist. Jack Kirby was the king. Johnny is the world's greatest comic artist because no one can do what he can do with the amount of versatility that he has. He can draw superheroes fighting better than anybody. He can draw 2 people talking at a bar better than anybody. He can draw a romantic scene better than anyone. He can tell a story better than anyone. He is just an all-around, absolute best guy there is.
I never supported your program. We have my predecessor, you must well give all right, eh? I think after 5.5 years of R&D, the United States government has a right to expect field Blashamaka.
One more time on a roll. What? Look around. You're a little nervous. Not that nervous. Good. And action.
Let him sue me and get rich like a normal person. That's what made this good.
God, it's true.
Oh, what do I do? I it up.
I don't think I can do that, Sam.
Good. Okay, now this time Kirsten will be the only one that points. No other kids will point to the X, okay? Does everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right,
Kirsten.
ready? Talk to me.
How? Oh, hey, how about these? They wore them in the X-Men.
Awesome! Cool!
Move Conway to page.
Try it from there again. It's perfect after there.
Sold out?
Yeah.
Every copy. It's this way. We double book page 6, both hop.
That's all right.
You're going.
Just carry on from there.
You're going.
And we'll pick it up. Action.
It's this way. We double book page 6. Both Macy's and Conaway both bought 3/4. We sold out 4 printings.
Sold out?
Every copy.
Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man.
God. No, roll. No, I keep going.